Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Break Thru U podcast. My name is Josh Rosales. I am the host of the Break Thru U podcast, and I am super excited to have a special guest with us this morning, Kay. And Kay, you and Frances have known each other. Frances is my wife, everyone. You and Frances have known each other since high school, right?
Yeah, I'd almost say before high school, but probably high school.
Probably high school.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So, just for kicks, before we get into this, just for kicks, how did you meet Frances?
I'm actually really good friends with Francis's little brother, Frankie. I did cheer with Frances. I remember being on the cheerleading squad with her, but I probably have a lot more memories of Frankie in 6th grade or 5th grade, of him always getting in trouble and being the class clown. And we just never stopped being friends. So, and Frances, Frankie, Mary, they all came in the package.
And that's crazy to see the transformation of when y'all were in high school into what you're doing right now.
Yes, and there's really something amazing and special about having friends from elementary and high school to adulthood. And the fact that you can keep holding on to that there's just a lot to be said for that. Something special about that kind of friendship.
That is cool. Well, enough about Frances and Frankie. I want to dive into this podcast, and once again, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to come on. I really appreciate it. You have an amazing story. You're an entrepreneur. You're a strong, independent woman that is just keeps fighting, and definitely want to dive into your story, and just I want what you have to say to add value, which it will, to other entrepreneurs that are struggling. I was reading a statistic a couple of weeks ago, and it was talking about 92% of all businesses fail within the first 2 years, and then 39% or 32% of those businesses show a profit, and then 30% of those businesses break even. But the article was also talking about that even those businesses that show a profit, that profit most of the time doesn't even cover their expenses. And so when we're like, oh yeah, my business is showing a profit, 9 times out of 10, that business owner is struggling to make it as well. However, they had the courage, and they had the drive to start a business, and kudos to them. And America runs on small business, right? The majority of employers in the United States are small business owners. And so thank you, Kay, for being a small business owner.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So let me ask you, diving into this, what made you want to be a entrepreneur, and then how did that play into your growing up? Were your parents entrepreneurs, or where did you get that from?
My parents actually, they owned a restaurant. They actually came to America. They worked, my dad was a janitor, my mom worked at Genesco in a factory, and even while they were doing that, they were selling desserts on the weekend. And so I have memories of riding in the car with my dad delivering the desserts on Saturday mornings. And then after that, they bought a restaurant probably when I was about in 5th grade, and they kept working at the factory for a while, and then eventually they did the restaurant full time. And I remember spending almost every day after school there, and the weekends there, and just growing up there reading books. We didn't have cell phones back then, so you actually had to read books and watch the occasional show and help out at the restaurant. So yeah, I grew up around it for sure.
And a lot of times people see they would see a business owner, and they were like, wow, it would be so cool to own a business, and they see the glitz and the glamour wherever that is, but they don't see all the hard work. They don't see the hours, especially for your parents, right? They don't see when somebody calls out, or even if overhead, they can't afford overhead and they have to work the business themselves for hours, getting up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and getting home at like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. They
Mm-hmm.
don't see where the kids are sitting there doing their homework, and they're missing out on maybe baseball games, or missing out on different events. And it's just like, being a business owner is good, but to start to get to that, to start and then to get to that point where you can hire people and you're actually making a profit in your business, you know how to market the business, and you're learning how to create not just a business where you're living, you know, I guess I would say paycheck to paycheck, but to where you're actually making a really, really good income off of it, where you can like have people work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is, but they don't understand the hard work.
Yes, it's very time consuming for sure. And even when you do have people that work for you, the work still follows you. Like your work just changes from worker bee to like making sure everything is going and as the way it should be. Like you have a huge responsibility because you have people that work for you. You've got to make sure that you can be profitable so you can pay your bills, their bills, because you know you're helping them feed their families.
Yeah.
It it's always following you. It just changes, you know, as you start to grow and have more people there.
So
But yeah,
have you
so
been in the insurance industry for a long time?
I have. I think I'm going on year 18 now.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe I've been working that long, Josh. Am I that old?
Have to celebrate that. So, 18 years of being in the insurance industry, what are the changes that you've seen since you started till now?
Um, the changes that I've seen.
Probably the internet, right?
Yes, yes. I remember at the beginning, you know, the yellow pages that I had that. Like, I don't know if the young people out there even know what the yellow pages are, but it was a big book
A big
with
book.
wanted to look up something. Like if you needed to look up a plumber, you turn to the P's and you look up the plumber. And like as an insurance agent or a plumber, you would pay to be at the top of the listing. And it was a lot of money. Like it was a scary investment. So now the yellow pages is pretty much obsolete. And now you have to go to the ranks of Google and grow organically or pay for Google AdWords. You still got to pay. It's just a different genre of where you're paying it.
Exactly. You know, it's crazy. I think to myself oftentimes, like, I'm 45 years old. I remember when the internet was created. I remember when we didn't have, I mean, we didn't have cell phones, and then when cell phones came out, there was this big old brick that you carried around and you thought you were cool, and you pull the antenna out from the top, and you had the little flip phone, and till right now. And it's crazy how business has evolved from before the internet, before, you know, cell phones, before all of that. You know, where you're going around knocking on doors. I remember when my dad was, my mom and dad, my dad was stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and they signed up for life insurance, and they had the life insurance agent came, you know, knocking on the doors, and my parents started talking to him. I think it was like Mutual of Omaha or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, business was done like in the kitchen. You know, they were done. And then I remember the Britannica encyclopedias that my parents
Yes.
had in the living room, and now it's like the internet has uh, taken that place. And so it's, you know, thinking about that when it comes to entrepreneurship, that times have changed. Of course, the total stories of Blockbuster and all that kind of stuff. You know, when it comes to the Break Thru U podcast, you know, I love talking to people because everybody has a story, and that's why your story is very. I just love it because not only are you an entrepreneur and you've gone through this journey of being an entrepreneur, and every day I believe now after COVID, like you're having to pivot, like you're having to think outside the box, because it's like, how do I grow my business in an ever changing world, in an ever changing environment that if I don't stay on top of it, my business could be obsolete, or it could, if you're not progressing, then if you're stagnant, then you're going to start going back.
Mhm.
It's just incredible the amount of time and effort you got to put into it and thinking outside of the box. And when it comes to breaking through mindsets, do you feel that, how do you feel with the mindset of an entrepreneur or people? Do you feel like people give up too easy because of that, that mindset of maybe they see that starting a business or being an entrepreneur is the glitz and the glamour, that they're going to make all this money, but then when they get into it, it's like, oh wow, I didn't sign up for this. Why do you think 92% of all businesses fail within the first 2 years?
I think sometimes maybe poor planning, or I've noticed I am one of those people where I don't like to get in over my head. And I understand like you have to take risks. You absolutely have to take risks. But some people, I think, take a little bit more risk, or maybe a lot more risk. And maybe like financially, they've reached the end because they've thrown so much into it with money. And then they run out, or they're just frustrated and they're in over their heads. But I mean, you do have to take that risk. But like I said, I am probably not as risky as some people. Like I want to gain some and then throw in some more before I keep going. If that
Tell me
makes
more about that.
Well, I know like when you start a business, when I first started selling insurance, I was very poor because we had to quit our job. Like can you imagine living a life full of just commission? Like that is hard to not have like something reliable to come in for you. And I remember another agent just telling me, that was ahead of me. She said, you just gotta, for the first 3 years, you're going to be poor. So I just kept telling myself, when I had to take out a loan just to pay my basic bills, like, okay, I just got to do this for 3 years, not get into over my head, but just do this for 3 years and then I'll make it through. And lo and behold, the third year came by and it got a little bit better.
So how
So I
did it
get
get? No, go for it. Keep going.
it's the title of your podcast. It's like breaking through you and yourself
Yeah.
and just pushing through it. It's like running a marathon and a race. They say you get a second wind after so many miles. You got to
Hmm.
get through the first wind to get to the second.
So a couple questions. So for entrepreneurs, before starting a business, you need to have a business plan, right? And so having a business plan, what do you feel should be going into a business plan, and then how often should you review your business plan as an entrepreneur, especially during COVID and after COVID, because it's totally changed now.
Yeah. Okay. So how often you should review it? I've started to get a little bit. I'm going to have to admit that I slack some, but I recently wrote a business plan, and I would say it's probably a good idea to look at your numbers monthly because you got to pay your bills, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to look at where the holes are. For me, it's like sales. It's like, okay, how many policies did I sell this month? How many did I lose? What do I need to focus on? So that's probably a monthly ongoing thing for me.
So a lot of times, exactly, monthly is, in some businesses, depending on the industry or depending how new you are. I mean,
Mm.
you've been in it 18 years. You kind of know, you kind of got a feel for it. But even though you have a feel for your business and you know your business, the environment has totally changed. How's that affected your business?
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I think the interest rates have been going up. Um, on mortgages, the market has started to slow down. And it started to slow down. There's not a lot of movement going on. I don't get a lot of calls from people who are buying a new house or refinancing. Sometimes you get business from other loan officers that have refis going on. Well, that's pretty much non-existent now. So that's starting to slow down and change things. So now I'm going to have to like refocus on, maybe I need to focus on life insurance. Maybe I need to focus on fixed annuities with how this market is going. What are some things that people need that I may not have focused on before
So
to
that
build?
business plan is changing.
Yes, things are changing.
So you are the owner of Cordell Insurance Agency, and you are based in Old Hickory, Tennessee, correct?
Yes, which is not far from Nashville.
No, it's actually I like the boat dock out there, or
Yeah,
the
it's nice.
and then so Cordell Insurance Agency, located in Old Hickory, Tennessee. What types of insurance?
Did you just ask what types of insurance?
Yes.
Okay, so we focus on personal and commercial lines. We've got car insurance, home insurance, life insurance, business insurance. And the thing that sets us apart is we represent a lot of different carriers, big name carriers, Travelers, Safeco, the Hartford. There's Farmers, what used to be MetLife, Grange, many carriers, so that we're able to shop rates. And pretty much, if you walk through my door and ask for a quote, I'm probably going to beat the rate that you currently have with some good coverage.
That's good. So for everyone out there that is watching, and also those that are listening on the 24 platforms that we're currently on, Kay is actually our insurance agent. And you know, it's crazy, Kay, because I was at a health and fitness fair a few months ago, and there was a farmer's insurance agent that was at a table. Young guy, really cool, energetic. We were talking, hit it off, and he was like, "So let me get you a quote. Let me tell me more about." And I was like, "You know what?" I said, "That's great." I said, "But we already have an insurance agent." And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, tell me about her." And so I went in on it. I was like, "Well, I feel, and maybe a lot of people shop on rate, but I think that there's a saying that says, in the absence of value, everything falls to rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when someone doesn't see the value in something, they're automatically going to go to the price. Well, what's the price? The price is too much, and then try to negotiate with you the price. And so, you know, what I was telling this young guy, in the absence of value, there's price. I said, but when someone sees the value of a product or a service, for instance, Starbucks. I'm not a big Starbucks drinker. I don't see why people go to Starbucks and pay $8 for a latte when it's like it's $8. I mean, I spend $8 on other things that people don't see, that they don't see the value in. However, what I was telling this guy is, unfortunately, my wife had an accident, and Kay, our insurance agent, was there with her, like not in the accident, but like showed up, made sure she was okay, stood with her. I was like, how many insurance agents would leave their home and go, and it was close to, it was there in Nolensville, but still it was like, I can text Kay, I can email Virginia, I can it's like, I feel like I get more value out of that than just having to call an 800 number with Geico or with Farmers or something like that. I just feel like it's more personable, and I wouldn't get that personal service. Plus, my wife has known Kay since high school. I told him, I said, so there's more of a personal relationship there. So if the rates are a little higher, like for us, we see the value in it. I think there's something that has to be said from building relationships and doing business with and having relationships built. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I would jump through fire for Francis. Maybe not you, Josh, but for Francis.
That is
I
that is
mean,
funny.
uh, so I really do take my job seriously, as I think most agents would, that, have personal relationships with their clients. taking their job seriously, because our name reflects on the service and the value that we provide you. And, I go into competition a lot with 1-800 numbers, like the Geicos, or, the ones where they have these weird names. I think the elephant, where do they come up with these weird names lately? Would you call something with the elephant insurance, which ironically, I can sell you that product if need be. But yeah, I take that personally, but I would strongly suggest, trying to find an agent, even if it's myself, that has a personal relationship with you. That's the same person that you're going to call every time, or their team. Whereas
Yeah.
when you call a 1-800 number, you're not sure who you're going to get, where they're at. They don't really have that much of a vested interest in you and your coverage. Usually I tend to find, like, when people buy their rates online and they don't have someone directing them on the coverages that are good for them, they come to me and I'm like, you have no uninsured motorist property damage coverage. Like, if someone without insurance hits you, you don't have any coverage. And buying that online, no one's explaining that to you. That, employee that you call that makes, an hourly rate doesn't really have an incentive to explain that to you. They
Yeah.
just want to make the sale and they'll never talk to you again. Whereas we're going to keep talking to you as we have a relationship for 18 years or whatnot.
No, definitely, definitely. So through the 18 years, how important, this is something that I like to talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about when I'm talking to them here on the podcast. So I believe that, self-development is very key, and mentorship, I believe, plays a huge role in that. How important do you feel it is for entrepreneurs or just individuals in general to have a mentor in their life? And then how has mentorship played a role in your life, in your professional life, and getting to where you are right now?
So sometimes I think when you go into business, it can be isolating, especially if you are the person that's in charge. So where do you go to get your accountability? Obviously, a mentor or someone who's doing it with you, even if it's your competition. I say that it's better to have friends than enemies.
Yeah.
So I do have a lot of mentors that I'm so grateful for. Like, it's hard navigating something that is new, that you don't have someone that's gone ahead of you to do this. So, I call regularly on my mentors whenever I have to hire someone new, or um, ask opinions on before I make a decision that's dumb. So a
Yeah.
lot of, like, my other insurance agent friends, they've already done it. So I'm so thankful that I have a relationship with them. I don't look at them as competition. I look at them as, we're all trying to help each other. And rarely do I actually run into them competition wise. So it's not a problem usually.
That's very interesting you bring that up, because a lot of times, we're in an environment of competition. However, I think that not I think, you're absolutely right, is when we can work something together, we can all benefit from it and be resources for each other.
Mhm.
And we need that. We need that so desperately. Couple other things I want to hit on. Branding. So I remember a while back you had this big branding, and you still do, but I saw it a lot more in the past, where it was the insurance ninja. Where did that come from? And those of you that are watching or listening, like, you got to check out, what's your website, okay?
It's CordellInsuranceAgency.com.
CordellInsuranceAgency.com. Go on there and check out. You got the Insurance Ninja on there.
Yes, I'm there as the insurance ninja.
So for you that are watching and you that are listening, go to the website, because you're definitely going to want to check Kay's branding out. How did you come up with that, Kay?
You know, I blame that on my kickboxing teacher, Troy. I've been doing his kickboxing class since I was 19. And I love to punch bags and I like to kickbox. So um, I just got that nickname from kickboxing. So I went with it.
No, it's a really cool brand. I mean, it's definitely unique and definitely sets you apart. How important is branding to you, and how have you used branding together with your insurance business?
So, Josh, you talk about how times have changed. Well,
Yes.
insurance is naturally not that exciting. It's kind of vanilla and boring. So, if you want to be remembered and keep up, you've got to be different. So that's a good reason why I've got to be the insurance ninja. It's a lot more interesting than Kay Cordell at Cordell Insurance.
Branding, working on branding, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of thinking outside the box. It is like, how am I going to get people's attention, or how am I going to set myself apart? And branding is a big thing. A lot of people struggle with branding, and it's like, how do I brand myself? How do I brand my business? Like, how do I set myself apart? In the age where there's Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and your website and networking and connecting, like, it's all the things, and it's like you're in this huge ocean with a lot of other competitors
Yes.
competing for the same business. And it's like, how do I make myself unique? How do I work smarter and not harder? Because you see people dropping like flies left and right.
Mhm.
And how has that played out for you?
So, can you ask me
So,
that question?
so 18 years. I think probably your experience of being in the industry for 18 years and having a lot of time to where I know you do a lot of networking, and I know, like, you know a lot of people.
Mhm.
When it comes to competing, what is the? Let me ask you this. Let me ask it this way. What is the one area of marketing for you that seems to be working out the best? Is it one-on-one? Is it like going to networking groups? Is it website? Is it social media? And why?
Um, Man, that's a hard question. It's hard to hone that in. Because I'm constantly working on a little bit of everything.
You have to be.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the branding definitely helps. Like it's definitely an easy introduction. Someone's going to remember that. Like it all kind of helps each other. So let's say if I'm going out to meet people, they're going to remember the insurance ninja more so than my name. They're going to be like, hey, that's that girl with that weird business card of her kicking in her high heels.
Yeah.
It's going to go hand in hand. So branding, I think it just helps everything else that you do.
How has networking played a big part in your business?
Networking has been kind of natural for me, um, in the sense that, like, I've lived in Nashville my whole life. And I think even before being in business, like relationships were easy to me. I liked having friends and I liked keeping up with my friends. So, having those centers of influence and still talking to your friends from like 25 years ago has been helpful because they also have friends that need insurance. So,
That's the truth. That is the
yeah,
truth, because I think Francis went to a Lighthouse Christian alumni or
reunion.
something.
You had a reunion.
Re-
I see.
Yeah, and it's like, I think a lot of people, that's so important, keeping up with your friends in high school and keeping up with your friends in college, and like, not just, especially if you're in business, like, that's so important. All warm leads. Like, I tell people on friends on my Instagram and my Facebook. Yes, you're my friends, but you're also my prospects as well. Three questions that I always ask is, who are you? What do you do? And how can we network? We may not be able to network right now, but I'm definitely not going to burn the bridge, because we possibly, more than often, I find myself coming around and we're actually being able to network either 6 months from now, a year from now. So it's like, you never want to, like, discard anybody, because you never know when your paths are going to cross and you're going to need them or they're going to need you.
Yes, I agree. Never burn the bridge. And I think people too, genuinely sense if you're authentic and genuine. Like if I'm meeting someone and they are, I don't know, like, and you sense that the first thing that they want to do is get your business, it kind of turns you off some. So I think when you meet somebody, maybe the focus may be more so about getting to know them. And then it's like an organic relationship. Like eventually they're going to buy insurance from you, or eventually they're going to buy your product. You don't know when, but keep that relationship going because you're genuinely interested in that person. Now, if
Mhm.
something's not natural with the relationship, like you just don't jive, then I think I would excuse you to not have to keep it going. Like it needs to feel natural. That's always been my motto. Be kind to people and it should be natural.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, here's another question, and I got like two more questions, and we're wrapping up. For those that are watching on YouTube, and those that are listening on our 24 different platforms, I'm super excited. We just got on Apple Podcast, and I think we just got on Pandora, so we're at like 24 different platforms, and so I'm crazy excited about that. Definitely encourage you to follow us on our podcast and also subscribe on our YouTube channel. For those of you that are watching and listening, we're talking with Kay, the owner of Cordell Insurance Agency in Old Hickory, Tennessee. Kay is actually my wife Frances and I's insurance agent, not just an insurance agent, but a personal friend. My wife since or before high school, and it's really important to have that personal experience. Really quick, Kate, you can insure anybody in Tennessee and outside of Tennessee, or is it just Tennessee?
Tennessee and Kentucky.
Tennessee,
All of,
Kentucky.
yes.
So if you're watching and listening, definitely you need to visit Kay at her website. And Kay, what's that website again?
CordellInsuranceAgency.com.
CordellInsuranceAgency.com. So getting back into this podcast, I think, like I was mentioning before, self-development is very important. Mentorship is very important. When it comes to your personal development, how do you handle that? Is there audiobooks, books that you read? Is it a podcast, a YouTube channel? How do you keep yourself self-developed?
So I try to make sure that I get an adequate amount of sleep at night. Mornings are my favorite time. It's probably when I'm most refreshed. Um, and I try to wake up and spend time, having a daily devotional, like really digging in God's word and just having a reminder of what life is really about. So it's between that and I like to exercise in the morning. I just like to have a fresh and clear mind and just be reminded of what's important in this life and
Yeah.
everything extra. And I think if I can keep myself balanced and focused, everything, like I said, everything's extra and it rolls along with it. But sometimes time is also short. So when I'm taking that walk in the morning to exercise, I may listen to a encouraging podcast just as a reminder of like what I need to be doing in business, talking to other mentors and friends, just trying to just do a little bit every day towards the goal.
How important is it as an entrepreneur, and really just as an individual, to have those people in your life that are going to challenge you and support you and be there for you, hold you accountable? Because the whole saying is true. You are who you hang around, and some people say, like, I can show you your future by the people you hang around. Birds of a feather flock together, and the list can go on and on and on and on. But I think we need to have, and there's nothing wrong with having different groups, right? You have a group where you let your hair down. There you have another group that, it's when it comes to your professional life that holds you accountable, that runs at the same pace you're running, or that they're running faster and you're having to keep up. Someone said that if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to go find a new room. And it's like always being hungry to hang around people that are just driven in mindset. Les Brown says you need to go to bed tired and wake up hungry. And a lot of times it's hard to wake up hungry You got to get through that mindset, right? And so, how important has it been for you to have the right people around you in your professional life, or even maybe in your personal life? Because I mean, you've gone through, you and Daniel have gone through some challenging times, and it's like, I think it's very important to have the right people around you that are going to help motivate you and support you. Tell me a little bit about that.
So, Josh, it's really funny how God works because you asked that. I'm actually doing this Bible study at church by Jenny Allen called Find Your People, Building Deep Community in a Lonely World. So basically, I haven't finished the Bible study, but it is about finding your community and making that important, like not living in an isolated world, but being more involved in just your neighbors, your communities, being intentional with your friendships, so that you have your accountability. And like for me personally, the goal in life is God, and how are we going to get there? We're going to do it together and have friends, that have the same mindset as us to keep us accountable. So
Exactly.
it's just it is very important. It's important in your personal life, professional life. It's hugely important.
So my last question, and I know we're getting to the end, but man, I wish I had another hour just to talk to you, Kay, because you have so. If people knew how much of a fighter that you are, and everything that you have navigated through and continue to navigate, you and your family. I mean, it's unbelievable how you navigate with God's strength and doing everything that you're doing. How do you balance your professional life, your family life, all the things? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with balancing. Either they're all in on their professional life and their family goes down the toilet, their kids grow up, and it's like, where were you? Your kids were like 8 or 9 and they're 18 now. It's like, how do you balance that? Because being a mother and an entrepreneur and a wife, and just giving, you're giving. Like, how do you balance that, Kay? Because it's so important, and you have to know when to stop, when to start. How do you do all that?
So I don't know if your listeners know, but I have 4 children, and one just started college, the other one's working. They are 18 and 19, and then I had a very long break there. And then all of a sudden I had a soon to be 3-year old, and another one that's 1. My 3-year old is special needs. He's trisomy 18. That's his diagnosis. He's on a ventilator, and he is a trach. He has nursing with us 24/7, which is a huge blessing. So we have a lot to juggle. And, juggling, I'm going to say by the grace of God and the many things that he's put in our lives and the people that he's put in our lives to help carry us when it's hard. Like, we've spent tons of time in the hospital, but I'm thankful for the community that I have through church and just friends that have just held us up through prayers and just being there. So that's part of the balancing act, is having those mentors and that community that surrounds you. And I
How do you
think, go ahead.
how do you avoid getting sucked in with work? Like, do you put
So
balances in place? Do you do a lot of delegating? Like, what goes into that?
yeah, so lots of delegating. And you just have to set boundaries for yourself. I think I was listening to somebody, a podcast about measuring success, and success is not always about just numbers and making money. It's about, sometimes success is about having time and managing your time. And I am grateful for my business, because if I had to clock into work at a certain time every day, I couldn't take care of my special needs son. So having my own business, I'm blessed to be able to work early in the morning, late at night, whenever I can fit it in. So it's having boundaries for yourself and just remembering what the goal is. Like, it's not always measured by money, but success is measured in other ways, and giving yourself a break, like not being as hard on yourself if you can't get to something immediately.
That is true. I
Yeah.
heard someone say, I heard someone say that every day we juggle glass balls and we juggle rubber balls, and some of the balls, like the rubber balls, you can drop, um, but you can't drop the glass balls. And those, some of the glass balls that you're juggling are like your family. Like, you can't
Mhm.
drop your family, you can't drop your job, you can't drop those important things, church and your,
Mhm.
spiritual life and your disciplined routines every morning with working out and
Yes.
devotions. Like, there's certain things you just can't drop. There's other things that you can drop, and it's like, okay, it's not going to be bad. But um, what's the most common mistake you feel like entrepreneurs make when starting their business?
Um, I that's a good question, because everyone is different. But I don't know if this is a mistake, but being able to recognize like how you want to grow your business, because I think that some people in my industry are very aggressive, and they can be because they have the time. But with the aggressiveness in getting the business, you're going to have to be able to manage it, like customer service wise. I've always had the idea of like slow and steady growth, because I want to provide value to my services. I don't want to be so inundated with busyness that I can't foster the relationships that I have with my current clients. So slow and steady growth for me, whereas someone else, maybe they can't handle the aggressive growth at the time. Maybe they need to figure out like how they can grow without letting all the balls drop. So I don't know
Exactly.
if that's an early on kind of mistake, because early on you're just trying to get everything, but maybe being more particular about the kind of business that you want to bring on.
And that's true. I think it goes back to your business plan. And I really feel that, experience and being in the industry like for 18 years that you've been in really is a major plus. I mean, if you don't market it right or handle it right, I guess it could be like you've been in the industry 18 years, but nobody knows you. But, a lot of people know you, Kay. Like, a lot of people, a lot of people. And um, you have a very upstanding reputation. You People trust you. They trust your advice. I mean, it just goes to show. And once again, for those that are out there listening and watching, definitely get with Kay for all your insurance needs. And as we're wrapping up here, Kay, I just want to say thank you again for accepting my invitation to come on. I think it's very important. People want to start a business, but they don't have a business plan. They haven't really thought it through. People want to
Mm,
start a business, or they want to start. It's like starting to work out, right? It's like someone wants to start to work out. You can like say, okay, I'm going to start going to a gym. Okay, well, what body parts am I going to work out, and what's my diet look like? And even if you're starting a diet, it's like, okay, let me do a business plan around my diet. Like, what do I need to eat? How much do I need to eat? How often do I need to eat? When do I need a coach, right, to help me in the gym? And so it's this whole journey. And I think for entrepreneurs, connecting the dots, there's so many people out there that are trying to do it on their own, and they fail, whether it's because of marketing, or because of taxes, or because of not doing something right. And it's like, you got to be reaching out. You got to be getting in groups, looking for successful people. And I always believe success leaves clues. Look
mm,
for successful people, see what they're doing, and duplicate it. Right? It's like, duplicate what they're doing. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Only dumb questions, a question is that's not asked. And it's like,
mhm.
you can go on and on. Closed mouths don't get fed. And it's just like, you got to be constantly bettering yourself and making sure that when you start the process, we're not. I really believe, Kay, that like, we're not. When you get ready to have kids, there's no instruction manual. I mean, there's books that are based on other experiences. And when you get married, there's not like a how to. There's like, you go to premarital counseling, but divorce is still up over 50%. It's like, if everybody like had the magic book to read on how to avoid divorce or how to avoid pitfalls in a business, where 92% of businesses end up failing, I mean, then we live in a whole different world. But you're never really ready. You just you try to prepare as much as you can, and then you jump in and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the life lessons that we go through are our best teachers, right? And it's just, you just don't want
Mm-hmm.
to keep repeating those mistakes. And so it's crazy. It's crazy getting into business. I think a lot of people don't really understand what they're getting into, and it's deep. It's when you're every day, you're like, okay, I got to make a certain amount of money because I got to feed my family, and you're out there hustling every day, and it's like, how do I network? How do I create a system that's going to help me work smarter and not harder? And
Mm-hmm.
you've done it, Kay. I mean, it's not always been roses, right? For
No,
for you, I mean, it's been hard work, and even now, 18 years of business, I mean, it's still having to evolve every day, having to evolve with the changing world that we live in.
yes. And and it can be so overwhelming. Like, I am hard on myself a lot of times because I'm like, I need to be doing this. And then I need to meet these goals. But I just have to like accept that sometimes it's like I can only do one thing today. And if I did it, that's a win. And eventually, as you start to set your goals, it's like exercise. Today, I'm going to work out arms. Like you said, you do this, things will start to fall into place because you're doing the work. So
Exactly.
it just, I would just encourage, as you're starting out, don't get too overwhelmed. Like, prepare as best as you can, but set short attainable goals for you every day, and sometimes that's the win. And just keep
Exactly.
going.
That's it. You
Mm-hmm.
hit the nail on the head, I believe. It's like, set those short goals, but have the long term goals, but take it bite at a time. Bite at
Mm.
a time.
Yes.
Well, Kay, thank you so much for joining me on the Break Thru U podcast. For those of you that are watching and listening, definitely subscribe to our podcast. We're on 24 different podcast platforms. Break Thru U podcast, also on our YouTube. Definitely go out there and subscribe. Okay, for those that are watching and listening that live in Tennessee or Kentucky, how do they get a hold of you?
They can call our office 615-889-2000, or go to our website, cordellinsuranceagency.com.
CordellInsuranceAgency.com. And from personal experience, Kay is definitely someone that you want to get your insurance with. And for those of you, again, that are listening and watching, definitely you owe it to yourself to go out to Cordell Insurance. What was it again? Because I messed it.
cordellinsuranceagency.com. And you know what, Josh?
CordellInsuranceAgency.com.
I just had a marketing idea. I need to get a simpler website. So it's memorable.
CordellInsuranceAgency.com.
That's way
Um,
too long.
no. But thank you so much, Kay. I really appreciate you accepting my invitation to come on. And I believe and I know that you have definitely left value in this podcast, and I definitely can't wait for it to get uploaded where other people can listen and watch and gain strength from your experience. And definitely check out that book if your church or small groups looking to do a Bible study. Was it finding my people or finding your people?
Find, Find Your People by Jenny
Find your
Allen.
people. Find your people. So from us at the Break Thru U podcast to all of you that are watching and listening, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. All of our support. Kay, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We wish you well, and you are definitely an incredible individual doing some incredible things, not just professionally, but personally as well. All the things. And businesswoman, an entrepreneurial businesswoman, and it's hard. It's hard but we learn how to navigate it, and it's very important to have mentorships. It's very important to have the right people in your life. It's very important to have a supportive spouse, and you have all of that, and your kids, and just being involved in all of that. So thank you so much. One last word, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Be blessed today.
Be blessed today. Yes. From all of us at the Break Thru U podcast to all of you watching and listening, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Remember, today is what you make of it. It may start off on the wrong foot, but your day can always end up on the right foot based on the decisions you make. It's not about the action, but the reaction. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you on the next podcast.
Yes. Thank you, Josh.
We'll see ya. Bye-bye.